How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com and your favorite co-host over at the Locked On Colts podcast. The Indianapolis Colts defense had major holes in coverage at the linebacker position, while safety play was a bit of a mixed bag at times as well. Those two statements, plus a lackluster pass rush, should have led the Colts to struggling mightily against play action as a unit. Instead, it was actually one of their strong suits on the season. In today's Lou in Review, we dive into the Colts' defensive performance against play action on the whole. Play action, especially under center play action, has enjoyed a bit of a renaissance in recent years. According to Sumer Sports, quarterbacks perform nearly 2% better in terms of completion percentage and average nearly a yard more in yards per attempt off of play action than they do on traditional drop back passes. In fact, just 8 NFL defenses finished with a negative EPA per play against play action this past season. So while the Colts weren't one of those 8 defenses, they still finished 10th in the NFL in this metric, again, according to Sumer Sports. And I went back and charted all 175 plays that NFL Plus deemed as play action pass attempts against the Colts this past season. And the overall numbers fare pretty well for the team. The numbers were, opposing quarterbacks completed 90 of 155 passes for only 58% completion percentage for 953 yards, which is 6.15 yards per attempt, and 6 touchdowns with 4 interceptions, or a 78.24 passer rating. They also allowed 15 scrambles for 73 yards and a touchdown, and they had 5 sacks for negative 45 yards and a fumble. So all that together is only 5.6 yards per play against with play action. Now, I'm going to dive into some of these clips and break down some of their positive responses and even some of their negative responses to play action to close out the video. But there are a few aspects that I really want to highlight before diving into the film. First is the Colts' effectiveness against RPO passes. The RPO pass has essentially died in the modern NFL with how defenses respond to it, with how the NFL has been a lot more strict with how they penalize illegal man downfield. And this kind of stinks because Lou Anarumo's defense has always been so effective at shutting it down. I mean, I would honestly wager that a big part of why Shane Steichen was so interested in hiring Lou Anarumo in the first place was due to how dominant Anarumo's 2023 Bengals were against the Colts in that Minshew-led RPO-based system. Again, back in that 2023 season, I think the Bengals won that game by a couple scores, and it was really a great showing from Anarumo and his squad. In 2025, though, the Colts defense faced just 22 pass attempts on RPO plays, but they allowed just 13 completions for 76 yards and had 2 interceptions on such looks. That's an astounding negative 0.71 EPA per play against RPO. So Anarumo's defense has always been prepared to shut down this plan of attack, and that proved to be true in 2025 as well. Another big point of emphasis, though, when it comes to diagnosing how the Colts responded to play action is the play of Laiatu Latu. Whatever you think of the young player, whether he's a star, whether he's a bust, whatever you guys think of him, it should be easy to see on film just how smart and aware he is at all times. In this hybrid attacking defensive style, a player like Laiatu Latu can be a game changer even when he's not rushing the passer. From sniffing out screen plays to deflecting passes to even creating interceptions, Latu's play was a big part of the Colts' effectiveness against play action this season. And the last call out when it comes to the Colts, again, against play action, is the use of field side blitzes to attack potential rollouts and just overall play action designs. Anarumo was particularly stout at dialing up these late 5-man pressures to attack play action, and it led to quite a few sacks and throwaways as well. The Week 1 design against the Miami Dolphins in particular was a beauty, as Kenny Moore II came flying on the field side after the cheat motion to force a fumble on the play. These blitzes weren't super common, but like a good changeup in baseball, it's highly effective when it's dialed up at the exact right time. So with all that introduction out of the way, let's dive into some film and discuss some of the Colts' best responses to play action, both under center and from the gun, and talk about where some of these deficiencies popped up and why the Colts did start to struggle a little bit down the stretch against play action. All right, guys, so let's dive into a couple of these play action responses for the Colts defense. We're going to break it up according to how they responded to play action out of the gun and play action under center, because there are a little bit of differences when it comes to those two aspects of defending them. But Overall, I thought the communication and the eyes from the Colts defense were pretty good this season in how they responded to play action. You could see it on plays like this. I mean, if we're going to break down how this play is going to be run here by the Titans, they're going to try to do a little play action rollout here from the gun. And their main two targets here are we're going to get the little drag route across the field from the tight end, and we're going to get this route in the crosser over the top. And the Colts have the perfect call for this. They have cover one robber. So when they have their robber in the middle here, it's going to be Cameron Bynum coming down over the middle, Nick Cross coming up top, and then everyone else is going to be in man coverage. Zaire Franklin's going to be on that running back. We're going to have Joe Bacci on that tight end. The linebackers do a really good job of how they pass off the tight end here. So when we run the clip, we see that when Zaire Franklin crashes to defend against the run, typically Franklin's guy would be this tight end, but the two linebackers essentially switch. Bacci opens up his hips and covers with that tight end coming across the field. Franklin switches onto that running back, and then your only other big threat is going to be this crosser that has that leverage on Kenny Moore. Kenny Moore knows he's going to have that robber help over the top, though, so he's going to scrape to get underneath this. We're going to get that robber pinching down over that over top of that crossing route, and then you're going to have that help defense over the top as well to kind of defend the back end there. So you basically are getting that pinch coverage there on that crosser. Linebackers switch off these two-man coverage assignments perfectly, and as a result, there's just nowhere to go. Kwity Paye does a good job of getting some pressure on the backside as well. Nowhere to go whatsoever for Cam Ward on this play, and he has to just dirt it for an incomplete pass. Getting to the next clip here against the Los Angeles Chargers, Colts are showing man coverage. They're trailing here, so as the motion comes to the boundary side, we're getting the corner trailing with him. So that's giving the Chargers a tell that we're going to get man coverage. And as a defensive back in this situation where we are getting man coverage, they're going to motion into trips here. You know that when they're on the boundary side, they have the trips to the boundary side, they're going to want to use some run away from them routes. They're going to want to get into space and really test this field side right here, because this is where all the open grass is. So this is a really tough situation for a player like Kenny Moore here. So Kenny Moore is going to be man up coverage here. And even though you know you have the safety over the top, you know that this guy has all this open grass over here. So what Kenny Moore does on this play, which I think is just great coaching and also just great play from a veteran player, is he knows like, hey, if this guy is going to break vertical, I have safety help. So for me, when I'm in this trail position with this crossing route across the field, I have to haul ass to get underneath that route, because it doesn't matter if he breaks vertical. It doesn't matter if he breaks down the field, because I have that safety help over the top. So I need to haul ass and undercut this route, make sure I can take away any chance for a completion. And that's exactly what we see Kenny do here. So off-man coverage against Ladd McConkey, a very good young wide receiver. And we see this crossing route from the trips to the boundary side. And again, Kenny knows what's happening here. He's a veteran DB. He's on top of the route. McConkey has the inside position, and he's running to all that open grass. So Kenny's going to get underneath that route and do everything he can to make sure that he can take away a potential completion. So look at this veteran play here. He just continues straight, even as McConkey's trying to stair step. He's trying to use his route running prowess to just get level and get to that open field. Kenny is not buying it. He used that opportunity to get underneath it, and there he's able to turn his head, make a play on the ball, and force an incomplete pass. Fantastic veteran play. Again, good coaching, but also a great play from a veteran player in this league. Another play here, the Colts are showing single high look, Nick Cross over the top, Cameron Bynum down in the box, and the Colts are just going to be running this cover 3, and it's all about just the coverage eyes from the middle of the field players here. So they're not fooled by the play action. Everyone gets back into their zones here. We get Zaire Franklin and Cameron Bynum getting the proper depth to just take away this crosser here with the tight end. That depth right there from these two players is vital. Really good recognition from Kenny Moore to peel off and just get on Nico Collins to avoid that short completion to the flat. And then from there, it's all about Mooney Ward just matching that outside route. Even though that is, again, to the field side, there's more space. They're trying to get that double move. Mooney Ward is on top of it all the way, forces the incomplete pass down the field. Very, very good coverage from the entire defense. This one, we have to give credit to Zaire Franklin for this next one here. Look, Zaire Franklin, I'm not going to say is the best coverage linebacker in football, but I don't even want to say he's a good coverage linebacker in this league. But one thing he's always been very good at is his ability to robot against play action passes. And with robot, what we mean here is roll over and back defense. So when he first has that read step against the run, he takes that first step forward. But once that happens, he knows he has to haul ass into this window, because what's likely coming off of play action is a deep crosser or a play across the field into that open grass. So he is hauling ass, rolling over and back to that route, because he knows as long as he can pinch underneath that route, that safety is going to be over the top. So make this a high throw, make this a throw the quarterback wants to avoid, because he just needs to get into that window. So there's no turning back and looking at the quarterback. There's no trying to make a play on this ball. It is turning straight around and sprinting down the field. So he is sprinting to that route, finding that route, getting in that window. And even though his coverage isn't like picture perfect, like a better throw to right here is still a completion, just enough to get into that window to force the quarterback to try to throw the ball a little bit higher, gets that errant throw right to the safety over the top, and the Colts get the interception. So good play action response from Zaire Franklin, able to roll over to that deep play action shot, take away a potential explosive play, and lead to the interception over the top from Cameron Bynum. And then one more clip here as well. Against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Colts do a really good job disguising this coverage, where when the receiver comes in motion across the field, nobody travels with the receiver. So that lack of travel tells Trevor Lawrence, hey, we're getting zone coverage look on the play. So he's expecting zone coverage. He's seeing press man up top here. So with this press man up here in zone coverage, he's saying, okay, cool. So they're going to be in this like Tampa 2 up top here. So he's going to be in press man. He's going to show zone, and I'm going to have that whole shot right behind that player after he just disrupts at the line of scrimmage. And that's not at all what the Colts are doing. They're playing a little bit more man. They're making sure that they are locking up these players in play action. So as Lawrence wants to get that whole shot off the fake flat screen there, Cameron Mitchell travels with him to that secondary, gets in the way, and nearly gets that interception. So good play awareness by the defense. Good job disguising what they're doing on this play by adjusting to man, and nearly getting yet another interception here. Kenny Moore nearly had his in one of those first clips, and then this one here almost an interception. So I think the Colts responded really well out of the shotgun when it came to play action. They did a really good job with their responses, didn't bite too hard on the run action, and did a good job disguising their coverages and getting some potential plays on the football. Running play action out of the gun is super effective. I'm not trying to dispute that whatsoever, but under center is a different animal entirely. Run fits are tested a lot more. Read steps are more vital, and making sure that you are getting that proper depth after trying to fit that run is as important as possible, and especially when it comes to communication and making sure everyone knows where they need to be, despite having to also be aware of fitting the run. It is very difficult to defend under center play action passes, and this is why we've seen this renaissance of it in the last couple years. But I think the Colts were very, very good with their communication against a lot of these plays. There were a couple of busts later in the season, but overall, I would say this was a major win for the Colts team. I mean, look at this play here and look at just how great the communication was across the board. Let me get this clip running here. So the Denver Broncos are going to run this play action boot to the boundary side, which is not super common. Typically, we'll see this to the field side, just where you're going to run a lot of these play action plays. But they're going to sell the run action to the field side, and they're going to pull it back to the boundary. And they do this little cheat motion with wide receiver number 5 here. Look at the communication between Nick Cross and Xavier Howard on the outside. Cross signals to Howard like, hey, with this cheat motion, you're going to peel off and take that, and I'm going to be more aware and more ready for any kind of flat action or any kind of receivers coming into the flat underneath. So they already pass off these two routes here, where Cross is more responsible for anything that's coming out of the backfield, and Howard is going to be responsible for this cheat motion with that quick hand raise right there by Cross to pass that off. So that's exactly what we see these two do. Howard is over top of that cheat motion. That's going to be running that wheel to the outside. Nick Cross, fitting against the run, steps in, sees the guy coming across the field in the flat, makes that physical contact to disrupt the route, and stays on it. Then we look at the two linebacker responses as well. Joe Bocci, as the play side linebacker on the action, is able to flip his hips and get into that window. Zaire Franklin does a really good job of getting back into this passing window as well. Cameron Bynum's probably the hero of the route, though, because he's able just to crash down with Mekhi Blackman playing that outside leverage. Bynum comes hard over the top. And while I think Bo Nix could potentially test this window, it would leave his receiver vulnerable to a big hit. And also, we have 4 eyes on this receiver. It's going to be tough to really make that play work. Outside is covered on the cheat motion. Cross is taken away the flat. The last thing here is as Bocce is passing off of this route over the middle, with Franklin coming over the top and with Bynum crashing down hard, he's able to flip his hips and come underneath to this 4th option on the play, drive down on that little pass to the middle to the tight end, and make that tackle for a short gain. Awesome play action response. Like, yeah, you could have been a little bit tighter with Zaire Franklin here, getting a little bit more depth maybe into this window instead of out here. But overall, I think the response was good. The eyes were good from the defense. The communication was really good, and they're able to force no gain on the play off of that play action boot to the boundary side. Another play here against the Tennessee Titans. We're going to see them again. They're selling that run action to the field side. Colts are going to be fitting hard against the run with all these guys here in the box. But because they have good communication and good eyes, we see they're able to take away pretty much every single route on the play. Zaire Franklin comes down and spots that leaking tight end to the backside. Does a really good job of getting on top of that route and undercutting it. But really, just the play by the DBs on the backside here is what really sells it. We're going to get this little bit of a pinch action here where Nick Cross is going to take away the inbreaker here alongside Cameron Mitchell. They're going to completely suffocate this route, and they're going to have a very aggressive slice technique here from Cameron Bynum that's going to come down over top of this receiver and take away everything across the middle. We're just going to lock that coverage up, and as a result, every receiver is accounted for. There's no guy leaking out of the backfield that we're not accounting for whatsoever. DBs are on top of it. Pinching this inside, Bynum is getting into this space, and he's going to undercut this route, and there's just nothing for that play action. And yet again, we see here with the Tennessee Titans, they're kind of forced to just throw the ball away, kind of dirt it. I think he gets a little bit of close to that ball there, but really good pass breakup by Mekhi Blackman in that lock coverage. But yeah, every receiver is accounted for. Every guy's in the right position. And you just see a good response from under center where everybody is where they need to be. Last play here that we're looking at under center, the Rams do this little motion to the inside to get Puka Nacua a little bit in the mesh traffic, a little bit in a place where he could be confused for the defense, but because the Colts are playing some of this man coverage here, they're able to lock it down. They do a really good job here. I think it's pretty much all Nick Cross. Nick Cross just fantastic on this play here, where what you see here is he kind of takes away 2 routes, right? So Nick Cross, he's in his spot. He's going to get the physical with Puka Nacua off the line to disrupt that route and get Matt Stafford's eyes to come off that route because the timing is already off there. And then what they're going to get is this delayed release block, right? So delayed release here with this tight end on Tyquan Lewis. So as this tight end releases, after letting Tyquan Lewis get some depth into the pocket, Stafford's eyes come to that receiver because Lewis is abandoning him and coming after the quarterback. So you think, okay, cool, we can get a nice little gain here. But Nick Cross, after disrupting Puka Nacua, comes down hard over top of that route, is able to take away the underneath option to the tight end and get the big hit on the play. And I think, yeah, no gain on that play as well. So I just really like the play action responses we saw from the safeties and even the linebackers to a degree. Could have been better and tighter at some times for sure. But I think the communication was always good for the Colts against play action. Now, we're going to get to in a second why they still got beat sometimes against it, but by and large, I think the communication and the coaching and just the players knowing where they needed to be was very, very good for this Colts team against play action, and I thought they did some really, really good things, especially against the gun, but even under center as well. I think a big thing we're going to see in a lot of these Lewin review videos is, like, look, coaching and communication and guys being in the right place can go so far, but at the end of the day, sometimes guys just need to make a play on the ball, or sometimes you need the talent or the speed or the ability to make those plays on the ball. And we kind of saw it in the first set of clips I broke down where we saw the 2 dropped interceptions, or at least the 1 dropped interception from Cameron Mitchell. Kenny Moore's would have been a little bit difficult, but we saw that those were plays that could have been made on the ball to have game-changing turnovers, and they weren't made. And we kind of see it to a more extreme here in these couple clips where I think the communication and the coverage overall is pretty solid. It's just one more step the right direction, and then just getting the play on the ball would have gone a long way. Here, I think the Colts coverage is pretty good. We're going to see this like scissors concept here in the middle of the field by the Cardinals, where they're going to use this mesh traffic in the middle of the field to generate some extra yardage for the receivers. And the Colts do a really good job of, when we're looking at these 2 threats here, who's the bigger threat, Trey McBride, or I think this is Zay Jones here. Obviously, you're going to want to double up Trey McBride. So as McBride comes up here, we're going to have Jermaine Pratt underneath. We're going to have Nick Cross over top of that route, and they do a really good job of bottling up the number one target on the Cardinals offense. It's just on the top here, we got Jonathan Edwards versus Zay Jones on this off-man coverage. And like we saw with Kenny Moore earlier, you want to see that, we have the help over the top. You want to see him try to level out and undercut this route as we get here. But because that mesh traffic, it's a little bit difficult. And Jones is just able to run away from Jonathan Edwards just enough to get that completion. Hand was in there. He's really just close to making that play, but a really good throw, really good catch by the Cardinals, and it leads to a big gain for that offense. Go against the San Francisco 49ers, the game from hell for this Colts defense in a lot of ways. I think overall, again, they had the cheat motion from the fullback. I think they communicate it pretty well. Nick Cross gets his depth to the outside to help with anything on the boundary, and the problem here is, yes, it's kind of a two-way go that we're getting here with Jauan Jennings versus Jonathan Edwards, but with Nick Cross undercutting this to the boundary here, Edwards needs to be playing a little bit more of inside leverage, not outside leverage, a little bit more inside leverage because you have help to that outside, so shade more inside. He is in the right position to shade that inside, but once we see Jauan Jennings break him down at the top of his route, right there with a little subtle head fake to the outside, Edwards loses that inside position. He gives up that in-breaker. Even then, he does recover pretty well because Edwards is such a good athlete, but he's just not able to make that play on the ball and break up the pass. But overall, the coverage is good. We see that the eyes here on the fullback are good, running with that receiver. Cross is doing a good job of taking away the outside there while also keeping eye on number 3, the running back. I think this is good coverage from the Colts. It's just the receiver made the play and the defensive back didn't at the end of the day. That's the difference between Jauan Jennings, 6-year vet in the NFL versus an undrafted free agent in Jonathan Edwards, and it leads to a chunk gain on that play. Another example here where this is at the end of the game, the Colts are trying to get off the field to get this win against Houston in Week 18. Colts do a really good job of bringing this late 5-man pressure that we showed in videos earlier, in this video, clips earlier in this video, and they do a good job of getting Nick Cross free off the edge there and hurrying up that pass. But at the end of the day, man, it really comes down to the talent that you have at corner, because what are the Texans aren't doing anything special here, right? If we look at the route combinations, we're getting a late guy into the flat, we're doing a little in-breaker here, and then just a little spot route here from this receiver. But that physicality of the receiver, a little bit of a push-off, but it's just kind of how the NFL works, gets that completion, and the Texans are able to get that chunk gain and go kick the game-winning field goal after that. So, again, communication good, coverage good, call good. It's just a guy got beat. A guy got beat. And it's not about trying to make excuses because the guy still got beat. But that was where more of the issue came on plays like this. And then on top of that, too, though, it's so hard to be consistently great against play action because there are just plays in the playbook like this. I think we talked about this exact play actually in the last Lewin review where the Colts have had good responses to these deep crossers, and I think Mekhi Blackman does a good job. We're staying on top of this, and we're going to just try to carry him into Cameron Bynum over the middle of the field. But because they are doing this play action fake to the boundary side, there's all this extra field out here to the field side, and Blackman's just not I don't know how many corners can honestly make this play. It's a very difficult play, especially against Rashid Shaheed, where Blackman's staying on top of that route, trying to run him to the middle where we have that help defense with Bynum. But when they break back outside to the field route and we get the anticipation throw from Sam Darnold, it's difficult to make a play on that ball. So, when it came to the Colts allowing big plays against play action, I think a lot of it was just getting out-talented at corner and out-talented at linebacker at times, and just that. I don't think the communication or the calls were necessarily bad. I think that the defense response was still really good. They just got beat. But also at the end of the day, NFL offenses are building their shot plays out of play action. You're going to give up some big plays out of play action. It's just the nature of football right now. And plays like this, you could have Sauce Gardner and Mooney Ward out there, and I still think this would have been a big gain. So I'm not concerned whatsoever about the Colts' play action response, though, going forward. I think their coaching across the board was really good. I think the players' eyes and communication was exceptionally good, too, especially with all the different bodies they had at corner, the different bodies they had at linebacker at times this year. I think they did some really good things when it came to play action, but certainly some things to clean up and hopefully get a little bit healthier at corner and a little bit younger at linebacker. And I think they could be a top 5 play action defense come this next season.